Was good, y'all? Red Sosa back in a building, and as y'all can see from the looks of the title and the screen, today I'm bringing y'all the first ever inside the arc point forward build. Now we're going to be able to get 70 plus badges on this build as well, but when it comes down to what we're going to be able to do on the offense and defensive end, shoot from deep and play elite defense. So before we get any further into this video, thank you God for another day and another opportunity. But man, y'all already know what y'all need to do. Be sure to hit that sub button if you're new. Don't forget to turn on post notifications if you're coming through for the very first time. And let's go ahead and be sure to smash that like button. Now, as we go ahead and get into the breakdown of this small forward, the main thing that you need to keep in mind is if you want to make your own adjustments along the way, that's perfectly okay, but just let me go ahead and remind you. If you want to do that, you may get a different build name. Now, I highly recommend you just follow along, and if you want to make adjustments at the end of getting the actual build name, that's going to work out perfectly. But as far as what we're going to be looking like, you're going to make this build at 6'8". I know we can make point forwards anywhere from 6'6" all the way up to 6'10 now. Pretty toxic, but I feel like 6'8" being in the middle is going to be the best for this kind of build. Now, remember, you can change any of these stats when it comes down to the physicals, but this plays a huge effect on what you're going to be looking like, especially with the build name itself. So what I'm going to do for the weight, I went with 222, but if you want to go ahead and change it like anywhere from 220 all the way up to the max, that's going to be perfectly okay. I can't guarantee you that we're going to get the same exact build name, but if you go with what I'm showing y'all, that's going to work out perfectly. Now for the wingspan, I was tempted to go a little bit bigger than 7'1", but honestly, if I want to be a main ball handler, I feel like keeping the wingspan as is or at 7'1" is going to be perfect. Anything higher than that, it's okay, but again, that's just going to play more effect on your defensive area. Now let's go ahead and get into the breakdown of the finishing right here. So as you can see, I want to make sure that on this build, we're going to be able to get all of the contact dunks. So what I did for my driving dunk, I went with the 92. And for the finishing, that's really the main thing that I was basing this build out of. Once it comes down to the badge count, though, we get a total of 18. And honestly, the tiers that we get for the finishing are super balanced, especially when it comes down to like tier 1 and tier 2. We get 3 Hall of Fame badges out of this area. I think the finishing is perfect as we put it, but let's go ahead and check out the physical real quick. So in order to be able to get all of the contact dunks, what you need to do is go with that 82 vertical. Then for the strength, I did not want to be weak, so I really raised this anywhere from 80 and above. Then when it comes down to the stamina, my base is always going to be 90. If you want to go higher than that, that's perfectly okay, but I necessarily do not think it's needed. Now go ahead and max out your speed, go with the 74 acceleration. Now we're able to move on to the shooting. Now as far as for the badges, we did unlock silver bully just because we did upgrade the strength. Now as for the shooting, I wanted to make sure not only was I going to be able to hit from deep, but I want to be effective on the mid-range game as well. So I did go with an 80 for the mid-range. When it comes down to the three-pointer, you can go anywhere from 75 all the way up to an 80, but again, that's all to your own liking. You may get a different build name, you may not, but as far as what I'm bringing to y'all today, this is going to be the perfect way to go about making this build. Now, 19 badges when it comes down to the shooting itself, and honestly for tier 1, 5 Hall of Fame badges, 3 gold, super overpowered, and then on tier 2, we get another 3 gold badges, 2 when it comes down to silver on the tier 3. Now, once we go ahead and get into the playmaking, you definitely got to be sure that you copy these stats down. This is what's actually going to give us that point forward name. So for my pass accuracy, I did go with an 80. For my ball handle, I'm going to go ahead and raise this to an 89. And if you want to go ahead and change the numbers, remember you can do that, but this is probably the most vital area of this build in order to maintain the build name. So for my pass accuracy and my ball handle, you definitely want to make sure that you base these both off of your own preference. I would go with the lower speed with ball, but the way that I set up my defense is going to be perfect, so I did go instead maxing out my ball handle and speed with ball and left my pass accuracy at an 80. Now right here, we get a total of 10 defensive badges the way that we upgraded it, but I'm going to go ahead and make a few adjustments to where we're going to be able to actually get 11 defensive badges. So right now, the stats are looking pretty good overall, but again, remember, you can make tiny tweaks and adjustments as we go along. Now overall for this build, if I'm being honest, I got to rate this build a 10 out of a 10, not only because we have everything that we want to do, but we're going to be one of the most rare point forwards that you're ever going to see on next gen for 2K23. Inside the arc point forward, I have never heard of this build, and once we go ahead and actually get that build name, it's going to be definitely worth it. But as far as for what the build is looking like right now, pretty overpowered, and again, we have everything that you want out of the offensive area. You can't ask for much more on the defensive area because of how we upgraded the offense, but again, You can really go about this to your own liking. I'm just showing y'all the guide, the setup, whatever you want to call it. This is going to be the ways to go about it. Now, once we go ahead and consider the takeovers, I'm just going to go ahead and let you know right now. Not only are we going to be able to get the lockdown defender takeover, we're also going to be able to get the shot creating. Then from there, we also get the slashing and the playmaking. Now, if you consider adding on plus 10 to 2 different areas of this build, that's really going to change the way that we're going to be able to not only play on this build, but the way that people are going to have to guard you. Now, essentially, you can get the potential of bringing up that three-pointer into the high 90s. Same thing for the mid-range, and then when it comes down to the playmaking, we may even be able to get a 99 ball handle. Now, from here, let's go ahead and take it into what we're going to be looking like for the actual takeovers. So I did say we're going to be able to get the slashing, shot creating, playmaking with the lockdown. For my liking, I would really consider going with first, shot creating takeover. My favorite one out of these three will be ankle breaking shots, just because of the ankle breaking animations. Now, for the second one, I'm going to go with extreme clamps, and as y'all can see, let's go ahead and check out the build name that we're getting, and I'm telling y'all, first ever of its kind. Together, we have created the one and only inside the arc point forward build. Now, out of every single point forward build in the history of 2K, I have never seen this kind of build name, especially with the way that it looks. I'm telling y'all, huge W, and we are able to do a little bit of everything. Now, let's go ahead and really quick get into the breakdown of the badges. If you want to check out what this build is going to be looking like at 99, go ahead and pause it. But from here, let's go ahead and check out what we're going to be working with. Now, once we go ahead and get into the finishing, I feel like on this build, I really was able to set up my core badges perfectly. So I'm just going to go ahead and let you know right now, once I did unlock the tier 3 badges, I did go with gold limitless takeoff for my tier badge 1. Now, this can definitely change going into the future, but again, as for starting out this season 1, this is going to be the best way to go about this particular badge setup. So after I go ahead and put on gold fearless finisher, I'm going to go ahead and also consider Giant Slayer on Hall of Fame, or you can even go with Aerial Wizard on Hall of Fame. If you want to go ahead and put both of them on, that's perfectly okay, but make sure that you're going with Gold Fearless Finisher. Now, for those of y'all who have watched my previous and past build videos, you're going to know how much I stress the point of putting on Fearless Finisher on any tier. The reason why is because once you drive to the hole, the layup animations that you get just from putting this badge on bronze makes a huge difference on any build. Now, I did go with a few different setups because I feel like the badges that we do get out of the finishing are honestly pretty perfect. We get Bully on silver, then also we get that limitless takeoff on gold. Posterizer is also going to be on silver, so you definitely got to be careful with the way that you set up your finishing badges. Now, one thing that I want y'all to keep in mind is that honestly, if you want to spread the wealth, that's going to be a perfect way to go about the finishing, because we do have all of the badges that we would want, but if you go ahead and try to get more badges, you're going to mess up other areas of this build. And going forward, remember, you're going to be able to unlock a few extra badges, not only from each season, but I know once you become a starter in my career, you're going to be able to get a +4 put towards any area of this build. Now, let's just go ahead and say that we put it towards our finishing. You'll be able to put on some of these badges that you do not have on currently. Now, for those of y'all who are watching, if you have created a build that nobody has ever seen yet, go ahead and let me know in the comments what have you made this year, because out of the builds that I'm bringing y'all, these are some of the most unique names that I have ever seen in any 2K, and that is honestly what I'm looking forward to posting for y'all, so that way you can get the rarest and best builds out there. Now, once it comes down to the shooting, you can really base this off of your own preference, but one thing that I'm really liking about this build is that for tier 1, it only takes 4 Hall of Fame badges to get Space Creator on Hall of Fame. Now, you definitely got to go ahead and put on Mini Magician. I'm going to go with gold. If you want to put it on a tier core badge, that's perfectly okay. Now, for my liking, I would have to say Blinders is going to be my tier 3 badge, but I'm going to go ahead and put it as the core badge for this build. Now, also, Guard Up is another great badge that I've heard from. And now, the number one thing that I'm always going to recommend to y'all is, as long as you're comfortable with the badge setup that you're running, I think you're going to be in good hands. But now from here, let's go ahead and move on to the playmaking. Now, not only is this one of the most strongest areas of this build, but I like the fact that we're going to be able to get some of the best badges on the highest tiers. So again, we get quick first step on Hall of Fame. Then from there, I'm going to go with bronze, vice grip, as well as gold killer combos. Now, the one thing about this build is that yes, we're going to be able to get handles for days, but you have to go ahead and put this on silver. Now, I would go ahead and either use my actual badge points, or you can go with the core badge for this one. Now, honestly, between killer combos and handles for days, these are going to be the two main badges that I'm working around, and I'm going to go ahead and throw on killer combos as my core badge. Now, for the playmaking, Like I said, we have everything that we need. If you want to make adjustments, you definitely can do that. Now let's go ahead and finish it off with the defensive area. Now as we get into the defensive area, I'm telling you, this may not be the strongest area for this build, but if you're looking to run this as your main and primary ball handler, this is going to be the perfect one for you. We have just enough defense to help ourselves, but then when it comes down to the offensive end, this build is just a juggernaut all around. 6'8", you get all of the contact dunks, the best dribble moves, as well as the ability to shoot from anywhere. Now, not only that, you get a great build name overall. Now, when it comes down to these defensive badges, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go with Silver, Box Out Beast, and also Gold Workhorse. Now, for the tier core badge that you would run, I would consider Workhorse, or you can go with Chase Down Artist. Now, both of these are going to be solid, but again, remember, pick to your own liking, and if you feel comfortable, that's going to be the best way to go about this build. But pretty much, this is what we're going to be looking like at 99 overall. And if you made it to the end of this video, man, thank you so much for your support. I want y'all to go ahead and comment down below TG for thank God. And man, y'all already know what y'all need to do. Be sure to hit that sub button if you're new, and turn on post notifications if this is your very first time on the channel. I'm going to be uploading every single day, so do not worry about that. I got y'all with the most lit and fire content. But with all that being said, man, I just want to go ahead and say thank you, God, for another day and another opportunity. Thank y'all for the support. And if you are tuning in from a different country, city, or state, go ahead and let me know in the comments right now. I'm coming out of California, so to everybody who is coming out of state, welcome for the very first time. And again, with all that being said, man, I got one last thing to say. Thank God and Rich out.